Philip LaCroix, and Brendan Sullivan. When a boy becomes a Boy Scout, there is within him something that we call the spirit of scouting. This single lighted candle before you represents that spirit. Because the spirit of scouting embodies the principles of the Scout oath and law, it becomes a shining beacon of inspiration. Alone, this light may seem feeble, but when multiplied by the more than 3.5 million boys in scouting around the world, it is powerful indeed.
In the distance looms the hazy outlines of Eagle Summit, flanked by the lesser peaks that represent the Star and Life ranks. To the new Scout, they are very far away, but they will come much closer as the light from the spirit of scouting continues to spread. The Scout begins as a tenderfoot.
The Tenderfoot badge is the first rank the Scout receives. It stands at the foot of the Eagle Trail. Once inspired by the spirit of scouting, he won't stay tenderfoot for very long. Putting a few simple achievements behind him, he will shortly climb to the rank of second class.
The requirements for second class become more difficult. The Scout must learn to be self-sufficient in the outdoors and continue to render service to others. Now the Scout is ready for the challenge to attain first class.
Although the requirements become more difficult, he keeps climbing until finally comes the day when he tops the first summit along the Eagle Trail. There, he receives his first class badge.
A broad field of merit badges awaits the first class scout. More than 100 merit badges guide him to explore careers, hobbies, and community interests. The scout needs but a total of 6 to conquer the Star Scout Summit. Probably a lot sooner than he thought possible, the scout finds himself standing on Star Ridge. Thus, through leadership, service, and achievement, he conquers the first of 3 great peaks remaining on the Eagle Trail.
To earn the star rank, the Scout must demonstrate leadership abilities as well as an advanced comprehension of many outdoor skills. Although he may seem accomplished, the Star Scout must continue to push forward, for there is much work ahead of him.
The trail to the next summit, Life Scout Peak, isn't easy. There is leadership to demonstrate, service to others, and plenty of hard work in mastering 5 additional merit badges. And helping fellow scouts. The higher the scout climbs, the fewer travelers he meets along the trail. Yet there is no impossible barrier along the way. This Life Scout's goal can be achieved, but it takes genuine effort.
While the rank of Life Scout is a coveted one, deserving to all who obtain it, the Eagle Trail does not end there. It leads on towards a higher summit. Pathway narrows, steepens considerably as it winds along the ledges of personal achievement and mountains pastures a troop accomplishment. Mile by mile, the trail becomes more trying. Many challenges must be conquered in the last mile. Before the highest summit along the Eagle Trail can be completed, additional merit badges must be earned. Some of these are very difficult, and leadership and service to others are not forgotten. Only the greatest persistence and courage the scout gain the thrill that comes with looking down back the trail from the very top of the Eagle Summit.
Thank you, Scouts. Honor Guard, please escort our Eagle Scouts to the front of the stage. No two scouts take the same. Ryan's grandparents, Richard and Doris Kelly, and his uncle, Richard Kelly Jr. Also, we have Philip's grandparents, Gail and John Melconian. We also have Brendan's grandfather, Colonel John Sullivan, and other local and visiting relatives.
My allegiance to the three promises of the Scout Oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Mr. John Hannon, Assistant Scoutmaster. Mr. Bruce Donlin, a former Troop Scoutmaster, will speak on behalf of Philip LaCroix.
As John said a short 20 minutes ago, it's always a pleasure to be asked to speak for a New Eagle Scout, and more so for me, in this case for Philip, because we have had the opportunity, and I might add the unique opportunity, to work together straight through since Philip was a Tiger Scout. Now, if I did the math right, it means back in '92, when he was a Tiger Scout, I was the Tiger Coordinator for PAC 1545. The following year, Philip had the great presence of mind to follow his parents to PAC 1501 when we started that unit, and so I was able to serve as a Scoutmaster for a couple of years. Again, if I keep the math right, in '97, when he graduated from Cub Scouts and moved over to this troop, he still couldn't get away from me because he was put into the Mises Patrol, and I was the Mises Patrol Advisor. Then there was a couple of years when I was a Scoutmaster, and then the past few months served as his Eagle Project Coordinator. And so that's kind of a nice, unique relationship to have. And it's even more unique today because Brendan, who's also an alumni for PAC 1501, so I've known him since he was a Tiger also. Ryan, I almost said unfortunately, but Ryan was a member of another PAC, but when he graduated into the troop, you can see where this is going, he also went into the Mises Patrol when I was a patrol advisor, so it's kind of like one big happy family up here. So that's kind of interesting. Before I go any further, I want to put Philip's mind at ease. Because a lot of times these talks turn into like mini roasts. So I want Philip to be able to relax, enjoy the rest of the afternoon and the evening. I think you know what I'm going to mention. Not a word from me today on the log incident. Not a word today from me. Now, Tuesday night at the troop meeting, if anybody wants the details, that's a certain. No, I promise, Scouts honor, not a word from me on that at all. But as I was the past couple of weeks kind of thinking about what I wanted to say today, it struck me how similar Philip's scouting career has been to so many scouts who have reached the rank of Eagle. There certainly have been many triumphs, many great accomplishments, many good achievements. But there have also been, I'm not sure stumbling blocks is the right word, but there have been some incidents where I'm sure the scout, as long as those of us that were witness to them, kind of wondered how long the scout was going to continue with this scouting thing. And Philip was certainly no different. And in a weird sort of way, I think that's a good thing. Because There's some things that have to be overcome. It makes the journey that much more meaningful. It makes it that much more difficult. And so the achievement at the end is that much more meaningful. One of the first things that comes to mind, again, I hope I got the dates right, it was in '95. And Philip was a first-year Weeblo. And so we had just, we were all going to Goshen for scout camp, for summer camp. Now this was Philip's first long-term overnight scout camp. First long-term camp other than with the family. I'll never forget Philip's chagrin that very first afternoon when we got there. Philip realized in all of Camp Ross, in every latrine in that entire camp, there was not one single item made of porcelain. Everything was splintered wood and rusty metal. So I wasn't sure if Philip not only was going to make it through that day, much less the week, much less the years ahead to get here today. Now the rest of this is urban legend. I was not there to witness this, but I've heard that when we finally did get home on Saturday, Philip hugged quite energetically at least one of the porcelain items. So then we'll jump ahead to '97, and one of, if not Philip's first overnight camping trips was the now infamous trip up to West Point. And you've probably all heard about the weather there. Not that we go out often when it rains, but some of us still have boots, I'm sure, that have not dried yet from that weekend, or we have all the mud off of our boots. But Philip was there, but he persevered, and there was also, which I just found out about recently, some other unfortunate events, not involving Philip directly, but unfortunate events in the tent that he had to stay in that weekend. But he persevered, and his persistence and compassion got him through. Then in '99, it seems like we're doing this at 2-year intervals here. In '99, we were going to the Adirondacks for an adventure trip. And of course, when you lead up to that, there's a lot of shakedown activities. Now we had several hiking shakedowns, and I remember on the very first one, Philip and his pack. Now, most packs weigh maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 pounds. Philip must have had about 20 pounds of padding on the shoulder straps and on the belly band, because as you notice, Philip doesn't have a lot of extra bone. So those straps just cut right down to the bone. And he must have been in a lot of pain, because I can tell you just looking at him, it was unpleasant. Now, some of us that had a little extra bulk with us, we wanted to, more than willing to share with him. But finally, buying a new pack and his persistence and compassion for what he wanted to do got him through that. The last hike before we went to the Adirondacks, we were going to do the 20 miles along the C&O Canal. So we got driven out to, I guess it was Penny Lock on Friday night. Well, it was spring, and there were a fair number of bugs out, and Philip and a couple others had decided they were going to sleep in hammocks that night. Well, with all the bugs and stuff, Philip lathered up in the bug. Yes, George, you know where this one's going. He lathered up in the bug repellent, and he didn't look too bad Saturday, and he didn't look too bad Sunday when we left him. But from what I understand, by Sunday night, he puffed up like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And I guess had to stay home from school a couple of days. But again, he stuck with it, and then there was, since we were going to do the 50 miles afoot in the boat in the Adirondacks, we had to have some canoeing, shakedown excursions. So we had some safety classes. Then the first time we really went to do some serious canoeing was from the Fort Belvoir Marina to Mount Vernon. It's only 1/10 of a mile, 2/10 of a mile. It's not that far down Doakes Creek from the marina to the river. Well, James and Philip were in the same canoe because we paired them up by abilities, just like you're supposed to. So they go paddling out of the marina, out of the slip there, right into one of the banks. And so then they tried to turn around, and then they paddled into the other bank. Now, for some reason, they couldn't do 90-degree turns to get down the river. They could only do 180-degree turns. Back and forth, back and forth. So the rest of us are down by the mouth of the river watching these two guys go back and forth. So somehow we got them out of the creek. We went down Mount Vernon. So when we get to the Adirondacks, we decide, obviously, our pairing up of canoe mates had to do some readjustment. So we put Philip in the canoe. with his dad. So there they are, Dave's in the back, Philip's up in front. And I don't mean just up front of the canoe, I mean up front in the air. They spent the whole week canoeing. I still swear to this day, Philip's paddle never got wet. In fact, the last day we were giving him such a hard time, we made him take the paddle at the end, reach over the side of the canoe and see if he could at least touch the water. And he couldn't. Now the good news for the rest of us was, of course, we had to carry our garbage around wherever we went. So Dave always wanted the garbage bags in his canoe with a little more ballast up front. But it didn't work. But even though his paddle never got wet, we still gave him credit for the miles. But again, it's, his persistence and his compassion got him through. And this is also a significant day in another respect. We had 7 scouts go with us that week to the Adirondacks. Philip is now lucky number 7. All 7 scouts that went with us have made Eagle Scout. And so that's also kind of another nice, neat little thing to be able to say. And finally, we get to Philip's Eagle Project. And again, his persistence and compassion. Now, I'm not sure if he holds the record for number of Eagle Project ideas, but it's pretty close. One time he was going to make a film, because we all know Philip's passion for filmmaking. And he was going to make a raised gardening table for nursing homes so that the residents there could wheel their wheelchairs up to the table, not have to get down on the ground, and their legs could go under the table and they could do their garden. Well, as we all know, he finally settled on collecting school supplies for Iraqi school kids. And that was a wildly successful project, probably more so than he expected. Collected more school supplies and more money than he expected, I'm sure. And again, I'm sure that is due to no small part to the compassion that he had for his project. So, on behalf of Troop 1853, and if I may be so bold, on behalf of PAC 1501, I want to congratulate you on your achievement today. And also thank you for serving through your persistence and compassion as a role model, not only for all the other Eagle Scouts to be out there, but for us Scouters as well, to show what we can do with a little persistence and a little compassion. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. I guess Bruce and I should have coordinated our comments beforehand. You're going to hear some of the similar things with Brendan and Philip. But first of all, let me begin by congratulating Brendan and Ryan and Philip on earning the rank of Eagle. You can see from the statistics in the program insert what a significant accomplishment this is. I would also like to say, Brendan, it's truly an honor to speak on your behalf today. I've known Brendan for a long time now as well. He started as a Tiger Cub in PAC 1501, the first year that we had the PAC, where I was the committee chairman for several years. Bruce kind of horned me in and said, it's 1 hour a week, don't worry about it. Trustworthy, right? But it's really been a pleasure to watch him grow and develop into such a fine young man. After we finished Cub Scouts, Brendan didn't join Troop 1853 right away. He earned his Arrow of Light, and then as I recall, he took a couple of months of break. And I think it was to concentrate on gymnastics. He was kind of big into that at the time and wanted to devote more time to that. However, I remember specifically the day that he came and joined the troop. It was now September of 1998, so he would have normally joined in March. And we were doing a troop activity outside in the parking lot in the evening, and I looked up and I saw Brendan's dad, Jim, and Brendan in tow walking towards me in the parking lot. I was kind of surprised to see him. But it was great to see him, and we talked for a little bit, and Jim said, you know, Brendan's having a little second thoughts, and he thought he might like to give scouting a try now, and so we thought, come into Troop 1853. And I remember something about this crazy Ukrainian gymnastics coach, or something like that, that he just couldn't deal with, so he was going to try scouting. So I talked to him for a little bit, and then gave him directions to go inside to fill out the registration paperwork. And immediately as they went inside, I ran over and I went to get Bruce. I said, Bruce, guess who was here? It's Brendan Sullivan. We got to get him in the Mises. I was a patrol leader with the Mises at the time, along with Bruce and and Tim Kelly at the time. So we said, we gotta get him in the patrol, and we did. So as of September 1998, all three of these Eagle Scouts before you today were members of the Mises Patrol, the vaunted Mises Patrol. We ruled. As you can see from from Brendan's biography, he's excelled not only in scouting, but in academics and athletics as well. He's a very well-rounded individual. When I think about Brendan, a couple of characteristics really stand out to me. The first one is intelligence. This is a smart young man. A student at Thomas and Jefferson High School and a member of the National Honor Society. I specifically remember working with Brendan on his Eagle project. One of the jobs I have now is Eagle coordinator, so I work with a lot of the guys putting together their projects, working with them on their write-ups, which, as many of them out there know, they don't get it through in the first draft. Most of them don't get it through in the first 5 drafts. Brendan, I think, had the fewest rewrites that I've ever seen. Okay? He was a smart guy, knows what he needs to do, and he gets it done. Maturity. Brendan always struck me as being mature beyond his age. It wasn't that he didn't like to have fun. It wasn't that he was always serious. Didn't like to have fun with the guys. But again, he knew at some point that there was work to be done, when it was time to have fun and when it was time to be serious. You didn't have to ask him twice. You didn't have to follow up with Brendan. You gave him a task. You knew it would be done, and you knew it would be done well. Confidence. Brendan has a strong sense of self-worth. He knows what's important to him, his faith, and his family. And nothing or no one will change that. Brendan sets goals for himself, and he works steadily towards those goals. I remember asking Brendan last year what he planned to do for college, and he told me confidently, I'm going to UVA. And I said, okay, that's great. What's your contingency plan? And he said, and I asked him what his contingency plan was, and he said, well, I've got one, but I don't really think I'm going to need it. And Brendan was selected for early admission to UVA. The next trait that really strikes me about Brendan is giving. Brendan looks for ways to serve others. His Eagle project reflects this. While all Eagle projects serve the community, Brendan chose a project that would have a direct and an immediate impact on the lives of less fortunate people in the community. His project involved the collection of school supplies, food, and clothing for families served by ECHA. One of the first things a Scout learns is the Scout Law. It's a requirement for earning the Arrow of Light as a Weeblo, a requirement for joining Boy Scouts, a requirement for earning the tenderfoot rank. For all other ranks, including Eagle, a Scout must demonstrate Scout spirit by living the Scout Oath in his everyday Scout Law in his everyday life. When I think of the 12 points of the Scout Law, trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent, they describe Brendan perfectly. You hear a lot about the youth of today, the me generation, and how they're not growing up with the same set of values that we did. You sometimes worry about that, and you worry about the future. Today, looking at Brendan, Ryan, and Philip, I feel very much reassured about the future. Each of these young men will be good citizens and helpful to their communities in a meaningful way. Brendan hopes to attend medical or dental school. I know that coming into an emergency room, I'm going to feel reassured if I look up and I say, that's my doctor. I'm going to feel very comfortable. I'm not sure how much credit we as Scout leaders can take for the development of these young men. Obviously, most of the credit goes to them and to their parents. Hopefully, we've played a contributing role somewhere along the way. So in conclusion, I'd like to congratulate again Brendan, Philip, and Ryan for a job well done. I have no doubt that this is only one of the many accomplishments that will come to you in your life. I wish you the best of luck in the future, and come back and visit us.
The Eagle Trail. Your diligence and hard work have paid off. You have made Troop 1853 very proud. May the qualities that inspired you to this achievement continue to lead you on to even greater success in your future careers and the rest of your lives.
Will Ryan's parents please join him on stage for the presentation of the Eagle Award and Mother's Pin? Philip's mother will now pin the Eagle badge over her son's chest so that the world may recognize his accomplishment. Philip, please pin the miniature Eagle badge over your mother's heart in recognition of her love, encouragement, faith, and trust in your future. As an Eagle Scout, may you never disappoint her. Philip's father will now place this neckerchief around his son's neck to tell the world he will continue to support him as he grows to be a man.
The necklace aside for you, Joe.
Well, it finally happened. More than 6 years in the making, I finally earned the rank of Eagle, Troop 1853. I'd like to start by thanking a number of people. First, thank all of you for coming out here this afternoon. It really means a lot, especially Eric and everybody else helping with our ceremony. Over the years, I've done a lot with the troop, and there have been many people who've helped me along the way. Without them, I wouldn't be here having made Eagle, and they deserve my grateful thanks. First of all, Mr. Coffin, my first Scoutmaster, who I had my first Scoutmaster conference with, has taught me more about outdoor skills than any other single person I know. Mr. Donlin and Mr. LaCroix, my two patrol advisors when I joined the Mises, as well as Scoutmasters later on, started me in the right direction as far as advancement and leadership. Mr. Hannon has been a part of all my high adventure outings, and he's taught me so much about dealing with other people, both in small teamwork situations and as a leader. Even more importantly, I've always enjoyed my time spent with him, and I couldn't think of a better person to ask to speak on my behalf this afternoon. Everybody I worked with at Camp Ross that summer of 2002, thanks, I think. I probably ended up learning something valuable, but what I remember most is having a lot of fun and making some great friends. Ross's boss. Mr. O'Malley and Mr. Stinson, they've always been there to bug me about my recent progress, or generally lack of progress, on my Merit Badges and Eagle projects. I never really thought I'd end up saying this, but thank you for the strong words of encouragement, however annoying they may have been at the time. Mr. Mitchell was a huge help with my Eagle project. Without him, the plans never would have been drawn up right, and I'm certain something would have gone drastically wrong with the project. From planning to actually building the stage, Mr. Mitchell was always a big help whenever I needed him. Speaking of my project, I'd like to thank Pastor Benson of Community Covenant Church, who was always supportive of my endeavor, as well as all the scouts and adults who came out day after day to help build the stage and spread all of the mulch. Without all of you, the project just wouldn't have happened. Finally, and most importantly, I must thank my parents. Since the moment I joined scouting, they've always been there for me with encouragement and advice. Of all the people who I've thanked, they've been the most influential and important. Thank you very much. Now I've got some valuable advice for those scouts here that aren't already Eagle, which is most of you. The first and most important piece is don't procrastinate, ever. When you earn a rank, don't sit back and pat yourself on the back. Use that momentum to get to work on the next one. This is specifically true for life rank. I sat there for way too long not doing anything, and I'm pretty sure Philip and Brendan did the same thing. It wasn't fun for any of us. If there was one thing I could do differently, it would be to get started on everything Eagle-related earlier and keep working at it. Between the Merit Badges and the Eagle Project, it became a lot harder to get these things done during my junior and senior year of high school. More time would have made everything a lot easier. Once again, thank you to everybody I've been involved with on my trail to Eagle. I couldn't mention everybody I'd like to because there's just been so many people that made an impact on me. Thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. For the years that I envisioned myself coming up here and standing here at my Eagle ceremony, I was sure I was going to talk about how long it took me to get here, or rather how long I let it take. But I know when I think back to my scouting career, the amount of time that it took me to get to the end won't be important. But it does make for some interesting trivia right now. I think as it stands, I have the all-time record for this troop for the amount of time spent as a Life Scout, which was over 4 years. Take that, Jeremy Selstrom. Some might see this as procrastination, but I like to think of it as thoughtfully taking my time and smelling all the flowers that scouting had to offer me. I'd like to thank my parents for continuing to support me while I smelled those flowers. Seriously though, and all kidding aside, my 8 years as a part of Troop 1853 were amazing. The friends that I made throughout the years, 2 of which are on the stage with me right now, I value immensely. The opportunities that I've been handed as a part of this organization are too numerous to count. A couple come to mind though. The opportunity to learn and grow under the superb leadership of our Scoutmasters and Assistant Scoutmasters. The opportunity to lead the troop as SPL. And of course, the terrific opportunities to camp and hike all over America. There are many things about these last 8 years that I'll never forget. Trying to get a bear bag 80 feet into the air under the leadership of Marty in the Adirondacks. Having to put trash bags at my end of the canoe to even out the weight on Cranberry Lake. And, of course, earning the swimming merit badge 6 years after starting it. Persistence, thank you, Mr. Stinson. Fond memories like this are staying with me for a long time. There's no doubt in my mind that I will be able to use the skills and knowledge from scouting in my life as an adult. I'm not talking only about knots here. I'm talking about leadership and how I treat people on my journey to success. To all of you out there still getting close to the Eagle rank, don't give up. It's hard work, and that's why so few make it. Be a part of that few. This awesome troop will help you get there. I'd like to thank a few people. First, thank you to all the Assistant Scoutmasters who guided me. Thank you to the 5 Scoutmasters that have led the troop during my journey. Thank you to Mr. Kelly for guiding me through the leadership of the Mises Patrol twice. Thanks to Mr. Selstrom for all his help and support during my Eagle project. Thank you to all of the teachers who taught me to enjoy education. Thank you, Mr. Donlin, for that awesome speech. Thanks to my brother and sister, and a huge thank you to my mom and dad for all their love and support in and out of Scouts. Hi everyone, thank you all so much for coming to our Eagle ceremony. I'm so happy to have my family and friends here with me today, especially those who came from out of town. Let me just say what an honor it is to be counted among the ranks of Eagle Scouts. It is particularly special to be wearing my grandfather's award and to be sharing this occasion with him. As we've been organizing this ceremony for the last couple of weeks, I thought a lot about my experiences in scouting. It's hard to believe that I started as a Tiger Scout almost 12 years ago. Little did I know that field trips to the Krispy Kreme factory would lead to waking up to snow while camping at West Point. I never imagined that I would sleep in a shelter that I had built or hike 20 miles in one day along the C&O Canal. These are only a few of the many opportunities that scouting has offered me, although I'm not sure I saw it as an opportunity as I ached at the end of those 20 miles. With all these opportunities with Scouts, it's not always easy to make the time commitment. It gets even harder as you get into high school with sports, clubs, and other obligations. Believe me, I know. I've been there, and I still am. I just want to tell any scout who doesn't see themselves as going all the way to stick to it. It is well worth the effort that it takes to make the extra push to Eagle, and as we've all said, it will make a big difference in your life. I want to thank all the scouts and scouters who have helped me on my way to Eagle, and take a minute to mention those without whom I may not be standing here today. Mr. Davis, as my den leader, you were key to my introduction to scouting. You opened your house to a bunch of rowdy boys every Tuesday night, even though, as I recall, it meant you had to tape one of your favorite shows, Home Improvement. Mr. Kelly, you've dedicated so much time to our troop, especially the Mises, and you're a huge factor in our successes and advancements. Mr. LaCroix, thank you for your thoughtful words. As my Cub Master, Patrol Advisor, and Scoutmaster, you and Mr. Donlin have been tremendous influences and motivators throughout my scouting career. I'd like to thank my family, my two sisters, Christina and Alina, and my dad. Thank you for the Pinewood Derbies and pulling me out of bed on Saturday mornings for hikes and cider sales. Mom, the countless car trips to meetings and patches you've sewn are only the beginning of the role you've played all these years. Although I don't always show it, I truly appreciate all the encouragement and support you both have given me. Finally, Ryan, Philip, and Eric, thinking back on that first troop meeting I attended, I remember how much you welcomed me into the Mises Patrol. We've grown up a lot since then, and I'm glad I got to make this journey with you guys. Thanks for making it fun. Thank you.
The Eagle Charge will now be given by Scoutmaster John O'Malley.
Gentlemen, the Boy Scouts of all nations constitute one of the most wholesome and significant influences in the world's history. You've been declared worthy of the high rank of Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America. All who know you rejoice in your achievement. Your position, as you well know, is one of honor and responsibility. You are marked men. As Eagle Scouts, you're expected to exemplify in your daily life the high principles and values expressed in the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. You've assumed a solemn obligation to do your duty to God, to your country, to your fellow Scouts, and to all fellow human beings. This is a great undertaking which you are now just beginning. As you live up to your obligations, you bring honor to yourselves and to your brother Scouts. As Eagle Scouts, you will be champions to other Scouts and be an example to your community. Remember, your actions will be more conspicuous. People will expect more of you. It is your responsibility to help maintain the high regard that all Americans have for Eagle Scouts. To falter would bring discredit not only to you, but to your fellow Eagles. Keep your ideals high and your honor bright. Your responsibilities, however, go beyond your fellow Scouts. They extend to your country and to your God. America has many things to give to you and to give your children after you. But these good things depend, for the most part, on the quality of her citizens. Our country has had a great past, and you can help the future be even greater. I challenge you to undertake your citizenship with solemn dedication. Be leaders, but lead only toward the best. Lift up every task you do and every office you hold with a high level of service to God and to your fellow human beings. Live and serve so that those who know you will be inspired to the highest ideals of life. I challenge you to be among those who dedicate their hearts and hands to the common good. Build America on the solid foundations of clean living, honest work, unselfish citizenship, and reverence to God. Then whatever others may do, you will leave behind you a record of which you may be justly proud.
The Eagle Oath will be administered by former Scoutmaster Mr. Rick Coffin. Will all Eagle Scouts present please come forward and form a line behind our 3 Eagles.
Candidates will now take the Eagle Scout pledge, as well as those Eagles who stand behind them. Will each of you please give the Scout sign and repeat after me in unison? On my honor, I will do my best. To do my duty to God. On my honor, I will do my best. To do my duty to my country. I reaffirm my allegiance. To the 3 promises of the Scout Oath. I thoughtfully recognize. And take upon myself. The obligations and responsibilities. Of the rank of Eagle Scout. On my honor. I will do my best. To make my training an example. And make my rank. And influence count strongly. For better scouting. And for better citizenship. In my troop. In my community. And in my contact with other people. Regardless of race, color, or creed. To this, I pledge my sacred honor. The Eagle Scouts in the audience may now be seated. Ryan, Philip, and Brendan, I charge you to enter this Eagle Scout Brotherhood, holding ever before you, without reservation, the ideals of honor and service. By repeating this Eagle Scout pledge before your fellow members, you have become Eagle Scouts. Through the words you used just now are similar to those by which you joined Scouting. Today they mean more than ever. Today they mean more than they ever could have meant at that time or at any time in the past. When you pledged yourself on your sacred honor, using the same words which are found at the end of the Declaration of Independence, you sealed your eternal loyalty to the code of the Eagle Scout. By the authority vested in me by the National Court of Honor of the Boy Scouts of America, it's my privilege and pleasure to pronounce you Eagle Scouts. May the oath you have taken remain true in your hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, Scouts and Scouters, I present to you Eagle Scouts Philip LaCroix, Ryan Kelly, and Brendan Sullivan.